Boston College lands another commitment in the secondary, and they are looking at a class of defensive backs that could completely reshape Boston College's defense.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider. Check out my work over there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Every moment more as playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Final official visit weekend. We're going to talk about a commitment that's in. I got two more crystal balls I'm throwing out there. Then I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about another team that is having a monster offseason. I'll explain who's in and why this is a big deal for a program that we don't really talk about a lot here. We'll get into that in our final segment. So, Charleston Coldon, a defensive back from Althoff, Illinois, committed to Boston College during his official visit this past week. Coldon, a 6'1" defensive back, had offers from Louisville, Kansas State, Iowa State, Indiana. He had a good offer sheet, rated an 85 and a 3-star by 247 Sports. This is number 7 or 8 in Boston College's defensive back commitments for this upcoming class. Coldon plays corner, but there's a smattering of safeties. They've got everything in there. Think about this for a moment. They could have up to 9. I'm still expecting Marcus Upton, who we talked about a lot about last week, to commit as well, to have 9 commitments for this class in the secondary. Now, if this was an old school college football rules recruiting class, that would be over 33% of your class would have just been your secondary. Luckily for BC, the rules done changed, and BC is allowed to build up a class as big as they want, as long as it does not go over the number 85. You can get, a class of 29, a class of 32. You just can't overreach the size of your roster. So one thing that we have noticed, and I think Jeff Halfley talked about it last year, and I know Bill O'Brien talked about it this spring, is that that BC was pretty they didn't have much depth on the defense. You looked at the secondary last year, and BC, once Elijah Jones disappeared for whatever reason that was at the end of the year, you were slotting in guys and trying to figure things out, but you had a lot of new names in there, and that was an issue. Now you turn the leaf over, you grabbed a whole bunch of guys through the transfer portal, Bryquise Brown and Cameron Martinez and Ryan Turner. They're all coming in. But if your goal is to build a roster that has depth, you can't always do that through the transfer portal. You got to get your own guys and bring them in and develop them. So BC is looking at that secondary and going, we need to, Ray Brown, the defensive backs coach, has done a heck of a job with this. And he said, he's looking at this and probably saying to himself, we got to add some depth here. And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they are literally restocking every cornerback and safety position for this upcoming year. You have your typical corners like Marcellus Townsend from Atlanta who committed. You have obviously Charleston Coldon. You're going to have your safeties, Ray Sykes, Amarian Davis. You have most likely Marcus Upton. So you're building up this depth. And on the one hand, I do worry. There's one part of me that does worry that it's a ton of kids all heavy in one class. You better hope that you have a few that could still play right away and some that you could stock and develop later. Because if you bring them all in and all of them need to develop, then you are kind of out of luck because you're going to have 9 guys on your roster that you can't play for a year or two. And that's a little bit on the worrisome side. But if you trust Ray Brown, you trust that defensive backs coach, you know he knows what he's looking at. You have to imagine maybe there's going to be a guy or two that they can push in and have him, hit up that depth chart. Maybe not start right away, but get behind a Carter Davis or a KP Price and be ready to play in a year or two. So that part I think is really interesting. But what I love is that all of these guys that they're bringing in, when I did my big board back in April, when I talked to the staff and I got all the names of the guys that are coming on campus and the ones that they're targeting, all of these guys, minus Najita Sinkala, who's a different story, were on their big board. Sinkala was a camp offer. So they have hit. What you're seeing here is the class is big because they want it to be big, but they're hitting on a lot of what they were going for. I mean, look, like when you're looking at the secondary, they've only probably missed 2-3 guys, maybe. Joshua Gurrier, yeah, I imagine he's probably not going to be part of this class. I mean, he could still. Jordan Woods, there's maybe 1 or 2 other guys. They have hit consistently on guys that they wanted to get, and that has been impressive. So you're going to see. I imagine that all of these guys are still they're gonna keep their commitments because I don't think BC wants to go back on that. That's a bad look for high school coaches and the kids themselves. It's not fair to them. But you're going to see a big class, and that when you're looking at this class, BC is at currently 18 commitments. I know of 4 to 5 silent commitments, and I know there's still positions that they haven't addressed to the level that they want to. So this class, I think, could get up to 27, 28, potentially 29 recruits. It's going to be a monster-sized class, and it's exciting because right now BC sits at number 36 nationally, and I think once those names go through, they'll be top 30-ish probably. And that's when you're doing that, and when you're coming back from a class last year that was a class of what I think 11 commitments, and there were 90 something in the country. That I think, shows you how far they have come, because there's a lot of guys that really want to play here. And I believe that there's been some names that they've had to push off because they just don't have the room for it. There might be guys that are higher on their board and they just can't take all of them. So I think there's a lot to say that Bill O'Brien has brought some excitement back to this recruiting trail. It's been a really, really crazy month of June. I mean, as I said on a couple episodes last week, as a host on Locked On BC, this is my off month. As in, I can do 3 shows a week instead of 5, and I usually use that to take a break and breathe, because usually I'd see I could talk about the linebackers again, and you guys all get bored of that. But there's been so much news that I can't not do 5 shows a week because I need to talk to you guys about all this stuff. It's nonstop, and I don't see this slowing down this week. I still think that you're going to be hearing a lot more news and a lot more excitement, and we're going to get into that in just a moment, because I placed 2 crystal balls, like my 247. You guys all, if you're following recruiting, you know what a crystal ball is. I have 2 good feelings about a pair of commitments coming up for BC, and I'll explain who those guys are. One of them is a quarterback. You're going to want to hear all about that in just a moment. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. As a Celtics fan, it was great. I didn't want those playoffs to. Every night that the games were on, I was just sucked into it. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. A lot of these boosts are parlays. So if you're watching a game and you're like, oh, the Red Sox are going to win by 2+, and Rafael Devers is going to hit a home run, and, Cutter Crawford's going to get 7+ strikeouts. You throw those all together, get your boost, you win, boom. it's a great night for you. So head over to fanduel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we're talking about recruiting. It's been the talk of the week. And for any of you guys that missed a lot of my shows last week, um, it's been the reaction's been great. I had 2 episodes at the end of the week where I basically just trashed Syracuse. No, not really. But BC is possibly flipping their biggest commitment. And I talked about how BC's in a better spot than Syracuse, and I understand that. And I talked about that whole recruitment as well. So if you want those, please go back in the archives and check them out. Now, this weekend was, as I said, the final weekend of official visits. There's still some names of guys that we're waiting for that have been on campus. And if you're on YouTube right now, you can see the picture of 2 of them. And one of them is defensive lineman Kadir Dembale from Stepanak Academy in New York. I think he switched back to Connecticut this offseason, but he was there in the spring with his teammate Denzel DJ Williams, an offensive lineman. So Dembale was at Wake Forest this weekend. I still think for him, it's going to come down to BC and Wake Forest. Not sure where his heart leans. Sometimes kids up here, they just want to go down south. Can't blame him for that. Otherwise, he might have liked to visit BC. I haven't gotten a good read of where he's at. But this part of the story is not about him. It's about his teammate, DJ Williams. Now, DJ Williams announced on Twitter this weekend that he is down to 2 schools. It's down between BC and Pitt. He took official visits to both. And I feel like his visit went really well to BC. In fact, I put a crystal ball in for him. I think he's going to end up at Boston College. From the sources I've talked to and the folks I've heard from, I think he's going to be an Eagle. Now, you're going to have to wait a little bit because he's not announcing until next Saturday. I think it's on his Instagram account he's going to announce. He would be a perfect addition to this offensive line. So BC has 1 committed offensive lineman, Robert Smith. DJ, I believe, is an interior offensive lineman. And I think so BC would have 2 interiors and no tackles, which is a little bit not the best. Yeah, he's 6'4", so he's an interior offensive lineman. But great addition. Obviously, he's got offers. He's visited a bunch of schools. Syracuse was in on him. This would be a good one for BC. We'll have to wait and see if they get him, but I feel good that this will be the next addition to the offensive line for Boston College. The other name came out. This was the big news on Sunday. I thought the news of Marcus Upton and all that would kind of carry the weekend. But then I got a text. that said, big news is dropping at 2:00. And so I waited. Nothing came up. I saw Blake James doing it again, and now everyone's going, "Oh no, is it more swim team stuff?" Which I get. Like you got burnt once by that. We hope to gosh that the news isn't like something small. But Jonathan DiBiase, the quarterback's coach, tweeted something about getting a future quarterback, and that's where this second crystal ball is going to come in. Based off of conversations I have, I believe the next commitment is going to be Corin Berry, a 2026 quarterback out of California. He's a 6'3" quarterback. He just finished his sophomore year, so he's got a lot of room to grow. But he was on campus last week. He was at one of the camps. I believe he came to the 7v7 game tournament. So that's where, they have the 7 versus 7s, but he threw for the staff. He left with an offer. I have a feeling based off of the tweets and some of the conversations I have a crystal ball in for him to land. And that would be a big one. This class, the class of 2025, you had to wait till last week for Shaker Razig to commit to BC. That was, very late in the cycle. Usually you get quarterbacks pretty early, but under Halfley it was different because obviously Jonathan Montague committed late, but a lot of times they're usually the cheerleaders for your class. and the guys that, wide receivers want to play for or offensive linemen want to block for. So if you got a quarterback for your class already like linked in for next year, you can see that that would be very beneficial for hopefully getting in front of some really good wide receivers. And I know folks are going to look at his stats. His stats definitely, or don't pop like you would hope for a quarterback, because I think he had like 17 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, and he had a passer completion rating of like 47% or something like that. But watch his film. It's hard, like just like when you're watching a kid just shred like defenses that are just terrible in high school films because they're playing against inferior defenses. His Barry's offensive line, just watching a huddle film, he's getting like it reminded me of watching Djokovic in 2022. His offensive line was bad, this kid Barry. So he's running for his life through most of that. So I have a hard time gauging through that what he could do. But if he's the one that they're going for, I love the fact that the staff has watched him throw. Greg Biggins of 247, one of the national writers I work with, he had glowing things to say about him as one of his like sleeper quarterbacks that really impressed him at the quarterback retreat, which is this big quarterback exhibition that they do in May. So there's a lot there. And he's young too, right? He's class of 26. He's only a sophomore. He's only 16 and he's already 6'3". So if this is the case, I ask that you be a little bit cautious on jumping onto his statistics, because I think it's a very different ball game of what he can do. And you got to trust the staff. The staff watched him. If that's the case, this is a guy to watch for. Now, there's other names that were here this weekend as well. I just talked to Kowal out of Ohio. He's down to Purdue in BC. He's a 6'7". He'd be your offensive tackle if you need one. Offensive tackle. He loved his visit. I'll have a whole article up with him. We obviously have Marcus Upton. I'll have an article from Brian Doan with updates on him in the morning. There's a lot going on. So if you haven't gone over to Eagle Eye Insider, check it out over there. And I want to say, as the writer there, we have a message board. If you've not been part of our message board, I would love you, as you guys are here. And I know a bunch of you are probably subscribers on 247, but you can write for free on our message board. I put up the new episodes of Locked On as much as I can remember to. There's all sorts of stuff. I put nuggets up there for VIPs, but there's lots of conversations. And I'd love if you are just listening to this, Joey. Oh, I wish there were more BC people to talk BC stuff with. Come over to the message board. It's fun. We have a really good gang of folks out there. I'd love to see each and every one of you out there on the boards as well. So come on over, sign up for a free account. And if you like it, you can become a VIP, but just check that out as well. Now, our final segment, I'm going to go over to baseball here because I can't wait to talk a little bit about what Todd Interdonato has done in the transfer portal and how he has one of the best transfer portal classes in the country right now. I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. This is AJ Black, and we have some breaking news as I'm recording this on Sunday night. As I was about to talk about baseball transfer portal news, we'll get that on tomorrow's show. Corin Berry committed as I was recording. So we're going to talk about that now. Corin Berry, 20 class of 2026 quarterback out of California, has committed to Boston College. This is the second quarterback that BC has landed in the past week. Eagles, they're starting to get their quarterback room into the shape that I'm sure Bill O'Brien and Jonathan DiBiase wanted to be in. Now, Berry won't get here until Thomas Castellanos is gone, whether Castellanos has one more year left after this or, if he leaves or whatever, he'll be gone. You're going to be looking at a class that includes a group that includes Grayson James. I believe he has at least one more year left. You'll have Jacoby Robinson, who knows if this will be his group. Jonathan Montague, the new quarterback. I'm not sure what we'll have to wait to see how Bill O'Brien sees his skill set. Obviously, he's much more of a runner. And then obviously Shaker Razig. So you got your classes, your slots lining up. Matt Reevy's going to be gone. He's gone. Castellanos will be gone. So you'll have some new names there for BC. As I said in the last segment when I was teasing that I knew this was coming. I didn't know it was going to come tonight. Berry has all the intangibles of what you're looking for. His statistics don't jump off the board, but what I've heard from talking to the staff was when they watched him, they loved his athleticism, they loved his arm, and his ability to move. He had everything that they were looking for, and that lines up exactly with what Greg Biggins was saying in his scouting report that he had after the quarterback retreat. So he has the tools that you're looking for a future quarterback that you can build upon. And he's 6'3" right now. He's a sophomore. So could he get to 6'4", 6'5"? He's going to be a big kid. That's a big kid. And I was talking to somebody, a source of mine who says that they're thinking he's going to get up to about 215. So 6'4", 215 is a good size quarterback. Much more what you're looking for. I mean, right now you got Thomas Castellanos who's like 5'10". So you're getting a much different style of quarterback here. I'm interested to see too. I think what a lot of BC fans are going to watch with this kid from now on is how much he develops. You have 2 years now you can watch him. And here, well, I'll have updates on him. Don't worry. But how is he throwing? Is he going to get an Elite 11 quarterback competition invite? All that good stuff. Will his rankings? Will there be teams that try to steal him if he gets too good? I imagine they will, but I'm telling you from talking to him, he really, really liked BC. And obviously, if he was that quick to commit and he had an offer from Arkansas, I think his connection to Bill O'Brien is a big deal. So great get for Boston College. And BC has now 2 commitments in the class of 2026 with Marcelino Antunes from Catholic Memorial, who is an excellent offensive tackle, and Corin Berry. So this was the big news from the weekend, right? Like they're a quarterback. So you have another quarterback. And there's been a run on quarterbacks in college football for the class of 26 already. So it's good that BC is on top of that they're not going to be a team that's waiting to the very end like it felt like every year with Jeff Hafley, that you're getting a guy now and you can use that to help build your class. You have a cheerleader. You have a guy that will make your job as a recruiter that much easier. And hopefully he'll be talented too. A lot of that is going to be something to watch for. So this is exciting news for BC. Another quarterback. We'll be back again tomorrow with more recruiting news. I'm sure there's going to be stuff coming up. And I'm not taking a break on this. I'm doing this 5 days a week this week, folks. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with more news. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On BC wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the 5 stars. We'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On BC, your team every day.